C-15-95-054, Sarah Crocker for Larry Rubin, 1600 South Congress Avenue, is a request for variance to remodel and maintain an existing commercial building to create a restaurant providing no paved off-street parking in a CS Commercial Services District. Section 13.5.107 requires one space for each 75 square feet of gross floor area. And we did receive a letter in opposition from Allen's Boots, to whom it may concern. I would like the board to know that I do not support the parking variance for 1600 South Congress. The employees of Allen Boots already park across the street on South Congress in the church parking lot due to the limited parking. There is a building at 1514 South Congress that has offices leased that do not have any parking in back of their building. These people already have taken spaces on South Congress and West Monroe. Parking is already limited in this two-block area with the antique, retail, offices, and restaurants. Sincerely, Stephen A. Greenberg.
Thank you.
History-wise, this thing originally went in as a bakery, retail bakery. Somewhere along the way with the large area up front, seats were put in. A new owner acquired it. The new owner, as a result of that, was trying to get an alcoholic beverage license, and we didn't have a certificate of occupancy for a restaurant. We had a CO for a bakery, and so that's why it's up before you now.
Okay.
My name is Sarah Crocker, and I'm here tonight on behalf of my client, the Common Market. To just sort of clarify for you, we've got several issues to clarify here tonight. One of them is when we filled out the application and submitted for this variance, we went on the premise that my client had 3,868 square feet. That was what was in his lease. There were no existing drawings, no existing as-built surveys, and no existing site plans. Going on the assumption that we may need to do a small project site plan for the rear lot, which is unpaved, in the rear of the structure, we ordered an as-built survey. The results of that meeting are summarized in my memo of October 6, 1995, which you just received a copy of from Mr. McClendon. Basically, what Mr. McClendon determined was that we would need 37 spaces total for that particular square footage, for the corrected square footage, and that he would give us a credit of 14 spaces based on the square footage for the long-standing retail use of the business, which resulted in a net spaces required being 24 and not 52.
Comment and open to questions.
I have a question for the applicant, please. Ms. Crocker, are y'all adding anything to this building at all?
No.
Are you doing any cosmetic work inside?
No.
Okay.
There's no intention at this time to expand the area that would serve patrons, the actual eating area. I mean, is that the whole building?
Yeah, I don't think they can. That's what I was trying to get from her. I don't think there's any place to expand. They've used all the building. It's there.
The entire building is currently in use as either kitchen or seating space.
You're not going to reduce the kitchen area to increase the seating space?
No.
What is the back portion of the lot that's just dirt right now? What is that used for?
There's a dumpster back there, and people do park back there.
But there's no improvements to that parking lot? There's no pavement, there's no landscaping, no screening, no detention, no water quality control?
No, ma'am.
Are there any plans for improving that space?
Well, that was one of the reasons why we got the as-built survey and talked to Mr. McClendon for the amount of money that would have to be spent to provide for the detention for the absolute small yield of parking spaces. I don't believe that there are any plans to do that at this time.
So it cannot be paved at this time?
Not unless we submit a small project site plan and come under all of the watershed requirements.
So, okay.
And the most you'd get out of it would be 2 or 3 spaces. You'd have to do handicap parking.
6 or 8, she's like.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, maximum.
6 or 8 maximum.
Maximum of 6 to 8. We would not only have to provide all that, we would also have to provide a paved sidewalk and an accessible route as well.
What about its current state? Is there any requirement that you bring it up to standard?
No.
Is it going to remain in its current state?
Yes.
Okay, and what is the current seating?
He says he has approximately 48 seats.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted her to go ahead and finish. Ms. Landers.
I understand that the back lot right now may be subject to some watershed compliance that may require it be, that you use it for drainage space or otherwise. Is that correct?
Only if we submit for a small project site plan.
Okay. And so if you do not resubmit for a small project site plan, that space would then be available, and I'm curious, before any motion comes out, how the applicant would respond to a conditional approval such that you would get the minimum number of varied spaces that you need with the requirement that the back space be used for parking, subject, of course, to whether or not you applied for that small project thing.
Well, I think the biggest difficulty with the small project is we certainly discussed whether or not that would be viable and wise to do that. Economically, the estimates were in excess of $15,000 to $20,000 to be able to pick up perhaps 6 parking spaces. So that didn't make it a very economical venture at that point, unless it was an absolute requirement for my client to do so. It's a small business. They're just getting started, and that would be a significant cut into their cash flow at this time.